More frequent price reductions, easing home values, and rising housing supply are giving buyers the upper hand in many Texas cities. Today, I'll break down the latest trends we're seeing right now that you need to know if you're looking to buy or sell or just watching the real estate market here in Texas. Also, if you're looking to refinance your mortgage or get pre-approved for a loan, then please reach out. My team and I are licensed loan officers here in California and Texas as well. With that said, I have a lot to share in today's video, and let's begin. Okay, first let's go over price reductions, because for the nation as a whole, price reductions are increasing, especially in Texas though. It says the national share of US homes with a price cut is further confirmation the housing market is shifting, relatively speaking, towards buyers ever since, of course, rates have been increasing, of course, after the fizzle out of the pandemic boomtown. So for example, back in June of 21, that was really the trough here. The share of price drops was 11.4%. That means that 1 out of every 10 houses for sale back then had a price reduction. Of course, it means that 9 out of 10 did not reduce their price in order to sell their houses. Now, fast forward to June this year, that share is increasing to 25.6%. So around 1 out of every 4 houses for sale nationwide have reduced their asking price. That, by the way, is the highest June levels going all the way back until June of 2018, at least 2018. Now, looking at the nation as a whole, at the top 10, there's actually 3 Texas metros that had the highest share of price reductions. Those 3 Texas cities are Dallas, Texas. The share of price drops at 33.8%. And by the way, Denver, Colorado has the highest share at just under 37%. So the number 5 spot is Dallas, Texas at 33.8%. Then we have Austin, Texas at 31.2%. and San Antonio, Texas at 30.5%. Here's another way to look at this. In Dallas, Texas, the share at 33.8% is way higher compared to pre-COVID. We should be seeing around 22 to about 25%. In Austin, Texas, that's 31.2, obviously way higher compared to the 25% in June 18 and 2019. San Antonio is at 30.5, that's lower than last year, but way higher compared to pre-COVID levels. And lastly, Austin, Texas at 29.9, slightly higher compared to last year, but still higher compared to pre-pandemic norms. Now, when we zoom out though, look at this. Phoenix, Arizona, 36.6, way higher compared to only 25% in 2019. Denver also is a high level as well, 37%, way higher compared to the last several years. Tampa, Florida is at 35%. In contrast, much of the Midwest and the Northeast has a lack of price cuts. So for example, New York, 14.7%. That is way lower compared to 2019. Back then it was at 19%. Every housing market is different. Now, why are we seeing more price reductions? Part of the reason is sellers who think that the market's still like it is in 2021, but also due to the fact that inventory is rising. So this is according to ResiClubAnalytics.com. It says inventory is above pre-pandemic levels in these 80 housing markets. That's good news for home buyers. So for example, back in January this year, there was only 41 markets out of the 200 largest ones in which inventory levels surpass 2019. Then it slowly increased so far this year. And now for July, we have 80 markets at the 200 biggest ones in which inventory is higher compared to the same time frame in 2019. In fact, for the nation as a whole, I just want to compare how we're seeing it, what we're seeing here in Texas, how it compares to other parts of the state. I think it's kind of like worth noting here. So in Punta Gorda, Florida, inventory is up by 106%. So there's twice as many houses for sale this July compared to July of 2019. Then we have Killeen, Temple, Texas, a big increase up by 95%. Waco, Texas up by 82%. Lubbock, Texas up by 70%. And the greater Austin area up by a staggering 64%. So on a national level, inventory is up by 25% from 12 months ago, but we're still down by 11% from 2019. Given the fact that inventories, double in Punta Gorda, Florida is eye-opening given the fact that overall for the nation as a whole, we're still down by about 11%. So this is something I found to be interesting as well. So this is looking at obviously different states compared to July of 19 compared to July this year. So Texas actually leads the nation with the biggest gains from 2019 at 32% or 32% increase from that level. Very closely behind though is Washington State, Arizona, Colorado, Tennessee, and Florida. They're seeing gains in the range of 29 to 31%. In Texas, for example, there's just under 141,000 existing houses for sale this July. Compare that to July of 21, 45,000. So there's an increase of 100,000 compared to 2021. Also looking at 17, 18, and 19, there was around 100 to around 107,000. So the inventory levels that we're seeing this July are way higher compared to pre-COVID. In stark contrast, in California, we're down by 6%. So there's 78,000 houses for sale, even though that's higher compared to any other time frame going back to 2020. It's still lagging behind 2019 and July of 2018. The reason why this all matters is that inventory is a big indication regarding the future of home prices, which I'll share an update with you guys here in a little bit. But places that inventory is still lagging behind 2019, such as the Northeast, for example, are areas, in which prices are still climbing. In contrast, areas like Florida, much of the South, prices are actually going down. So looking at inventory from July 19 through 2025, look at Chicago down 60%. We have Cleveland, Ohio down 45%. Hartford, Connecticut down by a staggering 74% there. So let's have a look at the greater Hartford, Connecticut area. Look at this, 1,240 houses for sale in July this year. That is higher compared to the past couple of years. But look at July 19, just under 4,700 houses for sale. Now there's 1,200. So go figure why prices are still increasing there. In stark contrast, look at Texas. So San Antonio, Texas, inventory is up by 44% from 19. There is 13,574 houses for sale. That's the highest July level going all the way back until at least July of 2017. We're also seeing big gains in Austin, Texas, up by 64%. Houston is only up by 12.6%. The Dallas-Fort Worth area is up by nearly 29%. Also, according to this other article from Resi Club Analytics, let's talk about home prices, by the way. So for the nation as a whole, prices are more or less flat from 12 months ago, up by only 0.2%. Now looking at Texas, because after all, this is a Texas market update, right? The biggest decrease is actually Austin, Texas, down by 5.8%. This, by the way, is looking at Zillow's home value index from June last year compared to June this year. We haven't seen July's numbers just yet. So Austin, Texas down by 5.8%, San Antonio down by 3.3%, Corpus Christi is down by 3.5%, Houston 1.8%, and Dallas down by 3.7%. It's actually much worse in Florida though. Remember, Punta Gorda, Florida up by 106%. So they're seeing big decreases in prices down by 12%. In Denver, they're down by 2.7%, Phoenix down by 3.5%, and in Sacramento, California, where I live and work as an agent here, we're down by 1.8%. Now here's a look at the 300 most populous metros nationwide, looking at prices compared to 12 months ago. Punta Gorda, Florida saw the biggest decline, the only metro that's down by more than 10%. The top four are all located in Florida, but what we have here, Austin, Texas, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The fifth biggest decrease nationwide, down by nearly 6%. We have also Dallas down by 3.7%, and these other markets as well. Now, here's my advice for you guys. If you guys are looking to buy a house in Texas or really anywhere across the country, my biggest advice for you guys is don't try to time the market. It is virtually impossible. Let me just share a graph looking at home prices for brand new houses ever since the year of 2000. So this is generally what people do who are really scared to actually buy a house. I'm not talking about people who can't afford to buy a house. I'm talking about the people who have been waiting for a housing market crash since 2020, but they have been able to buy. They have the ability to buy, but they're choosing not to because they're waiting for a housing market crash. So obviously you guys know what happened after 2008. By the way, this is according to the US Census Bureau, looking at prices for houses that have actually sold that are brand new homes, according to the Census Bureau. So the peak was in March of 2007. Back then, the median sale price was $263,000. Obviously, prices dipped greatly. And then by the time we hit, October 2010, it went down to $204,000 or $204,000. So what people were thinking here, this is not the bottom. I want to wait for home prices to crash further. And then prices surge, right? And then they say here, April 2013, it increased to $279,000. But I'm just going to wait for the housing market to crash because homes are too expensive, right? And it just kind of goes on and on and on, right? The market here in 2019, I don't want to buy a house because rates increased from 3.5 to 5%, and therefore the housing market's going to crash. And then in 2020, of course, the unemployment rate increased to over 10%. The housing market's going to crash. Therefore, I'm not going to buy a house. And of course, you guys all know home values went from the trough about $310,000, the peak to $460,000. Over the past 5 years, you can see that home values, or not home values, the median sale price has been decreasing. And now people are saying, I'm just going to wait for the housing market to crash because home values are going down. They're going to go down further. But in all honesty, I've been following the market for years now. It's anyone's guess what's going to happen. But do not buy a house unless you plan to own it for at least 5, 7, or 10 plus years. Because overall, as you guys can see, let me just max this out to 1965, overall home values tend to increase. But of course, there's dips and troughs though, right? So if you plan to buy a home, don't buy a home unless you have long-term time horizons, a stable job, an emergency fund, which means you have funds saved, set aside in a liquid account in which you do not plan to use those funds. And that accounts for I'll just say 3 to 6 months of your living expenses. If you don't have that, don't buy a house. But I actually kind of worry about people who are just waiting for this housing market crash that may never ever come. We could see further home decreases or further decreases in home values and home prices, but it's very challenging to buy at the right time. I remember buying my first home in 2013, and that was when home values were shooting up. I think it was up by 25% in one single year. And I was thinking, oh my gosh, and buy at the right time. And maybe I should kind of wait this out. But of course, home values have been increasing greatly ever since then. So if you have the means to buy a home, go and find a good house to buy in which you plan to live there for a long, long time. If you're a home seller though, look at the market, look at your neighborhood. How many houses do you see for sale? Are you seeing price reductions, or are you seeing houses selling very, very quickly? So I would rely on your local real estate agent to kind of navigate regarding the appropriate asking price. Don't go out to try to set new records because every market is softening due to a rise of home or housing inventory. And with that said, of course, if you guys want a real estate agent referral, check out my website, which is realestateteamfinder.com. With that said, hope you guys have an amazing day. Thank you everyone for watching today's video. Please like and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next video.